Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointing Not Sharp. Today we're going to take a look at the Indonesian G3 bayonet. Now these bayonets were made in Indonesia to fit the Rheinmetall G3 rifle. That was a version of the G3 with a collapsing stock, and there were later versions that Indonesia adopted with a fixed stock. I don't know if they produced them locally, purchased them from Germany or Burma, but they got them from somewhere. Anyway, these bayonets here were produced by Pindad, which is the state arms industry in Indonesia, and they would have been produced after 1962. We don't know how many were produced, and we don't even know if they were produced for a specific contract of rifles or if they were just made to supplement the Rheinmetall G3 rifles in Indonesian service as they broke, just as like a replacement item. We really don't know too much. But I'll jump into the history very quick. After World War II, pretty much Indonesia was using a mixture of World War II weapons. They had Lee-Enfield rifles, they had M1 Garands, they had Dutch M95 carbines, they had Japanese Arisaka rifles. Everything that was used in the area pretty much got picked up and adopted. And they had a little civil war with the Dutch. They broke away from the Dutch, had their War of Independence straight after the First World War. And the Dutch were using Lee-Enfields and M1 Garands, and they adopted a lot of those. So in the 1950s, they were looking at standardising on new weapons. They went with the M1 Garand, and then come the early 60s, they were really looking for a more modern rifle. Now, what I find reasonably interesting is that Western countries were cautious to supply Indonesia with arms because Indonesia was still eyeing off Western Papua New Guinea, which was, or Western New Guinea, whatever you want to call it, which was still a Dutch colony and didn't share any heritage with Indonesia. But there were a lot of European concerns or Dutch concerns that the Indonesians were going to move in and invade that area. And for that reason, they were very cautious to supply weapons to Indonesia. But they still were. They still were supplying weapons to Indonesia because they didn't want Indonesia to fall under the influence of the Soviet Union. So Indonesia had a policy of non-alignment with either side, and it was a bit funny when it came to procuring arms because the Indonesian army was closely aligned or more aligned with the West, and particularly the US, while the Air Force and Navy were more aligned with the bloc, the Eastern Bloc. So they were procuring Soviet patrol boats and MiGs and things like that. So yeah, interesting to see where they source their stuff. But in the early 1960s, a number of G3 rifles, particularly the ones with the collapsing stocks, produced by Rheinmetall, were sold to Indonesia. Now, I haven't found any documentation indicating that they were sold directly by Rheinmetall or West Germany to Indonesia. West Germany certainly were supplying arms, or not just arms, but military material to Indonesia at the time. But I haven't found anything suggesting that the G3 rifles were directly sent. And I have found a reference online that they were sold to Burma, and Burma sold them on to Indonesia, who was a close ally, through a grey market deal. But I can't verify that. It could be absolute bullshit for all I know. Anyway, those Rheinmetall G3 rifles came with Rheinmetall G3 bayonets, which are very similar to what we have here. Essentially the same pattern of bayonet. This is just one produced in Indonesia. There are a couple of small differences, but they are very minor. Now, Indonesia did copy the Rheinmetall G3 bayonet. The Rheinmetalls had a lighter brown handle, and they had a plate behind the muzzle ring with the serial number on it. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. They also came with a different style of scabbard. They had a Durafol scabbard with a attached, riveted on frog. Very similar to this one here. We've got the US M1 Garand style of scabbard or shape, and made of Durafol with an attached frog. So that's what the Rheinmetall G3s came with, while the Indonesians produced their own steel one. This one's damaged, as you can see here. It would normally have a tab and a frog, but I don't have one of those, unfortunately. Now we'll jump into the construction of the bayonet. It's got a nice long blade. I can't remember the exact length. I think it's like 9 inches or something like that. Could be wrong. This one's pretty sharp actually. Got a double-sided blade with a spine running down the center. Nice spear point at the tip. And yeah, as bayonets go, this is probably one of the sharper ones I've got. I don't know what kind of steel it's constructed of, but it's got a little bit of bend in it, and yeah, holds an edge really, really well. Moving down, these bayonets fit to the top of the muzzle. So this would be the left ricasso and that would be the right. The muzzle ring is facing downwards. Looking at our crossguard is riveted on with 2 big domed rivets. We've got a nice big muzzle ring. I'm not sure of the diameter. I'll post it below because I don't have any way to measure it right now. And then our grip scales are 2 plastic grips with, 6 grooves in them, the same as the Rheinmetall. So the dimensions are the same. While the Rheinmetall is like a light brown, this is a really deep brown, almost a black. It's retained by 2 screws, flathead screws, in this case going right to left. And then we have our uniquely shaped pommel. So again, it fits above the barrel. So this concave surface here mates with the top of the barrel and sits snugly. We've got our bayonet catch just here, and that's retained by a single pin that just slides through. It comes out just there, and it'll have a little internal spring. And this clips into the front of the G3, and that's our little attachment device right there. So very simple design. As I said, the scabbard is just a stamped bit of steel, no drainage hole in the bottom. Usually we'd have an attached frog, but we don't have that today. As always, we've got an internal spring for retaining the bayonet. We don't really have much of a throat, just sort of an open end with the spring visible. So very crudely constructed. This one here at some point has been used as a hammer. I'm not sure if you can see that. We've got some dents here. And that's very common for bayonets. You very often encounter damage consistent with use as a tool other than what they're intended to do. I've seen bayonets with bent blades and snapped off tips being used as pry bars, dented in pommels or latch plates used as a striking piece as a hammer, and yeah, the classic using the scabbard as a hammer. Now that's the construction. Finally, I'll cover off the markings. We don't have a terrible lot, but we've got a few, and they're all pretty much in the one place. So here on the left ricasso, we have what's referred to as the atomic meatball. And what that is an atom symbol within a gear. And that's essentially just the symbol for Pindad. I think even their new symbol has it at the top of like the squiggle on the P or whatever. So that's like the manufacturer's mark, and that's how we know it's made by Pindad. The Rheinmetall ones have different markings on them. They have a the Rheinmetall diamond, I think it is, on them. Anyway, the only other markings we have are on the face of the crosspiece just here. So on the left we have G3. That's the model of the bayonet or the rifle it fits to. I'm not terribly certain what they call them. Then dash, and I believe that's a serial number. I've seen another one with serial number in the 832,000 range. This is the 830 range, and considering the only 2 serial numbers I've observed have both been in that range, I'm assuming they were probably made in a small batch. I don't know. But the Rheinmetall rifles that I've seen serial numbers of have much lower rifles, like a 100,000 range. So I don't really know what's going on there. Anyway, that's all I know about these. They are really difficult to get. You can really only get them from Indonesia, and good luck exporting them out of the country. You can't take them out in the mail. You have to bring them out in your luggage. So they are quite difficult to get. Very nice piece. Very happy to have it. I am never ever going to sell it. If you've enjoyed the video, guys, drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel, because I've got a lot more interesting bayonet content coming, and particularly a lot of Indonesian stuff. I did a trip to Indonesia recently, and I brought a lot of really interesting bayonets out of the country, so plenty of cool stuff on the way. But that's all I've got for you today. If I've made any mistakes, as always, comment below, and thanks for watching.